What's going on, everybody? Marvel the Cross 316 back with another comic book flashback. And today, folks, we are looking at the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 109. This issue came out in June of 1972. And today, folks, we are continuing and concluding this storyline with Flash Thompson being kidnapped by a bunch of Asian monks. And we are also going to see Spider-Man teaming up with none other than Doctor Strange in this issue. So that's pretty cool. We haven't seen these two team up since, I believe, annual number 2 of Spider-Man. So that's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and get started. I love this cover, by the way. The yellows, red, blues, they all pop on this issue. And so let's go ahead now and get started. Enter Doctor Strange is the title for this video. And as always, this is brought to you by Stan Lee, who wrote this issue. We have John Romita on the artwork, and the lettering by Art Simek. So last issue we left off on a bit of a cliffhanger. We have Peter Parker being left behind. Flash Thompson's been kidnapped by, like I said, a bunch of Asian monks. And Gwen has told Peter to stay behind because every time there's trouble, Peter seems to disappear. And everybody at school is saying that Peter is a wimp, he's a coward because he runs whenever trouble comes. And so, in order to not reveal his secret identity to Gwen, he has to stay behind. And this is bad news because Flash Thompson's life is in the balance here, it's hanging in the balance. These Asian monks could do anything to him, and Peter, who is Spider-Man, has no way of getting to Flash Thompson because he has to stay behind. So there's that huge explosion, and we see that bunch of policemen are looking at just the carnage that's taking place. This one guy is like, get every available man on the street. I want him found. Do you hear? I want Thompson found. And so then a police officer comes across Peter Parker's shoes. And remember, he took his shoes off so that he could scale the wall in the dark. And so he comes up with this lame excuse that during the explosion, his shoes were blown off. Now, I don't know how these guys never try to put that story together. That just doesn't make any sense. But anyway, they do, due to comic book sense, I guess, comic book logic. So Peter says, I'm going to go wash up. And so he's looking in the mirror. He's like, oh crap, my Spidey shirt is peeking through. If any of them had spotted it, you would have kissed my cover goodbye. So he is going to then look at his shoes and I have a good idea here. And so in just a few seconds later, we see a bunch of commotion going on in the washroom. And we see this one guy, and Gwen's going to check out this. And it just so happens that they're going to see Spider-Man swinging with, it looks like the body of Peter Parker, but of course this is just a web filled in these costumes here, or in the clothing here, to make it look like Spider-Man is carrying Peter Parker. And so Gwen then starts to panic here, and she's like, oh no, it's all my fault. If I hadn't insisted that Peter stay here, if I had just let him go. And we see that they think that Peter's in big trouble here, and Spider-Man's going to swing off. Now he's going to be looking for Flash Thompson. He put a spider tracer on that big giant guy that he fought last issue, so he should be able to track them soon. And so while Spider-Man is swinging through the city, combing through the city, trying to find any traces of Flash Thompson, his Spidey sense begins to go off, and he's going to come across the astral form of Doctor Strange. Now, Doctor Strange, what does he have to do with this issue? We're going to soon find out here. We see that he is going to will Spider-Man's body to follow his astral form back to his Sanctum Sanctorum in Greenwich. And so Spider-Man's like, this is not right. I feel like a puppet forced to respond to someone else's will. And Doctor Strange says the sensation will pass when we have reached our destination. And Spider-Man's like, that building down below, I know it. I've seen it before. It's the home of Doctor Strange. And Doctor Strange says, now that my astral form has returned to merge with my physical being, I grant you welcome, Spider-Man. Enter. you need cling to the wall no longer. And so Doctor Strange is going to reveal his purposes of why he contacted Spider-Man. And through one of his spells here, he's going to allow Spider-Man to see this image from the eye of Agamotto here. And it just so happens to be the scene that's taking place right now with Flash Thompson. I mean, he is helpless. He's in bondage here. And these monks are telling him to gaze at the lifeless form of none other than the ancient one here, their leader here. And he's like, this is impossible. The high priest, he's supposed to be dead. He died in the explosions back in Vietnam. But what really happened here, as we're soon going to find out, is that he put himself in a sleepless trance. And what they're going to say here and reveal in this issue is that Flash Thompson needs to be the sacrifice, and once Flash Thompson is sacrificed and killed, then his spirit will go inside the body of the high priest. In comes Shawshan, who we met last issue. This is the first time we are revealed her name here in this issue. And we also learn in this issue that Shawshan is the daughter of the high priest. I don't think that was revealed last issue. So that's new information to us, the readers. And so we see that Flash Thompson's going to be put back in his cell here until the time, the holy hour comes for him to be sacrificed. So Spider-Man and Doctor Strange sees this entire scenario, and they need to get to the exact location as quickly as possible. And Doctor Strange tells Spider-Man that he is going to team up with him so that they can stop these guys and stop them from sacrificing a helpless Flash Thompson. So that's where they're headed to. Meanwhile, we see Shawshan is going to come inside the room, and she's like, be silent. She says, look, I know that you are a hero and that you did try to warn us about the shelling that took place in Vietnam. I know that you're one of the good guys, and I'm here to help. And so what we see then is she's going to then take out this knife here. Flash is like, oh gosh, I'm about to be killed by this woman. A bunch of monks rush in. They take the knife away from Shawshan. And he says, you must sheathe your blade once more until the hour has come. Then we will get the final call. So meanwhile, while all this is taking place, we see that Gwen Stacy is going to rush to Peter Parker and Harry Osborn's apartment. And immediately she tells Harry about the situation. Have you seen Peter? He says no, not a word. And while all this is taking place, and she says that Peter's been captured by Spider-Man, Aunt May hears this entire conversation take place. She starts to freak out. And we see that it's, oh no, my dear boy. Well, Gwen Stacy definitely does not like to hear those words. She wants everybody to stop thinking that Peter Parker is helpless. And she then is just going to berate, absolutely berate Aunt May here. She doesn't mean to do this, but she's just so frustrated and she's helpless, she's scared, and she loves Peter for goodness sake, and she just wants Peter to be safe. So once again, Gwen is grieving, and then this issue here seems that she just never seems to stop worrying over Peter Parker. I can't blame her because, Peter is living this double life of being a civilian and a superhero. So it looks like the sacrifice is just about to take place here. And while this is taking place, finally at the last moment here, right when this is about to take place, Spider-Man and Doctor Strange show up and they're going to stop this sacrifice from taking place. Spider-Man severs the bonds on Flash Thompson, but this giant grabs a hold of Spider-Man. So Spider-Man has his hands full. Doctor Strange tells him to keep them at bay while he's going to cast this spell. And this spell is going to do one thing, and that is it's going to reawaken the high priest. And so Spider-Man is going to take down all of these Asian monks. We see Doctor Strange uses his spell here to reawaken, and really, he says, have life begun reborn to this high priest. Sha Shan's like, "Oh, I'm so glad that you're happy, and that you're well." So Sha Shan must have some feelings towards um, Flash Thompson. So that's interesting here. So what we learn in this issue is that before the shellings took place in Vietnam, the High Priest reached out to Doctor Strange um, and through a trance here, and told Doctor Strange to come immediately to New York City, or his body's going to be in New York City, and he was just happy that his whole plan worked out here, so that he could live to see his daughter, and everything just works out pretty neatly here as we conclude this issue. Spider-Man thought that the High Priest was dead, but instead, what we learn is that the High Priest has some knowledge about the black magic that Doctor Strange uses. And so we end this issue out on a good note, but Spider-Man is left worrying about Flash Thompson now that he is a civilian again. He's going to have to worry about Flash Thompson trying to woo Gwen Stacy, and almost, hopefully not, but he could steal Gwen Stacy from Peter Parker. So that's what we have to worry about in future issues. But coming up next, folks, we have a brand new villain that we're going to look at. His name is Gibbon, and we'll learn more about him in next issue, in issue number 110. I hope to see you there. Comment down below what you liked about this issue. I'd love to hear what you thought about this issue. Give this video a like and subscribe if you have not, and I will see y'all in the next one.